Alright, this is the Algebra 2 TEKS test review for your TEKS test you'll take tomorrow. So, number 1, that's the first one we're going to start working. It says, Linda works as a lifeguard for $15 an hour. She also babysits for $10 an hour. Linda needs to earn at least $120 per week, but does not want to work any more than 30 hours per week. Graph the system of inequalities below to represent L, the number of hours working as a lifeguard, and B, the number of hours babysitting. So these are the inequalities that represent what they're telling us up here, and we're wanting to graph each of these. Remember, to graph them, we need to get them in the form of y equals, but in this case, there's no y equals. So let's look at our axis to know which one's going to represent y. Well, that would be the B. So to do that, I'm going to solve for B on this equation. So I've got 15L plus 10B. That symbol means greater than or equal to 120. So the first thing I'm going to do is minus 15L minus 15L. So I have 10B greater than or equal to negative 15L plus 120. Then I divide by 10. Remember, anytime you divide, as long as it's not negative, you keep that inequality sign the same. If it's negative, you need to flip it to where it would say less than. So negative 15 over 10, I'm going to plug that in my calculator. So negative 15 divided by 10, hit enter, and then hit math. Enter to get it as a fraction as negative 3 over 2L plus, and you're going to do 120 divided by 10, and you get 12. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to graph that. So I'm going to start at 12. I'm going to put a line. Remember, this right here means it's going to be a solid line as I go. So I'm going to go down 3 over 2, down 3 over 2, and there is my graph. And then I'm drawing a solid line through those points. Use some ID or ruler to get that solid line. Once I do that, then I'm going to look at this inequality. That inequality is a greater than, so I'm going to shade above. So I would highly suggest that you take different colored pencils to shade so that you can see the different ones that go with this. I'm shading above that line. You might not be able to see it because of lighting, but it is above the line. Then, next one, this one right here, I'm going to solve for B again. So I have L plus B less than or equal to 30. So subtract L, subtract L. So I have B is less than or equal to negative L plus 30, which that's like saying negative 1 over 1. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to plot my point at 30, which goes right here. And then I'm going to just go down 1 over 1, which in this case, how it goes, you're having the 2, but it still is going the same way. Same with that 3 over 2. Also, your other option is to plug it into y equals and plot your points. That is another way that you can go. So plug in the equation to y equals. This becomes your y, this becomes your x, and plot those points as you see them. So once you get that, draw your line. Notice again it's an or equal to, so it is solid. I'm drawing a line through those points. And then this time it's a less than, so I'm going to shade below. I'm shading below my line. So that's everything down here is below. So really these other two symbols and this one right here, you actually need to change to where it says greater than or equal to. All that means is that you're above this line and you're over here on that line. So really what I'm looking at is this part in between my two lines are my solution sets. That's where everything needs to come from. So I'm going to come over here, and on y'all's review you don't have all these points, so you might want to write these down. I want to circle all the ordered pairs L and B, this is L, this is B, that are in the solution. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to plot this point 4, 4. So if I go to 4 and I go to 4, well that doesn't lie in this shaded region, so that is not a solution. Guys, the other ways, if you don't remember how to graph these, plug these two numbers in. So you would do 15 times 4 plus 10 times 4, and you want that to be greater than or equal to 120. Well, if you plug in 15 times 4 plus 10 times 4, you're going to get 100. 100 is not greater than or equal to 120. So you know that that problem can't work. So if anything, if you do not remember how to graph, just plug in the points in here This is a multiple choice test, so use those test taking strategies to figure that out. Alright, let's check the rest of the points. So I have 4, 8, so I'm going to come to 4. Going up to 8, well that is in that solution, so this is one of my choices. 2, 10, well 2 is here. Go up to 10, that lies on that, almost on the line, but it is in that solution, so we're good. We're going to circle that. 6, 20, so here's 6. Go up to 20. Again, it's in that shaded region where they overlap, so that is a solution. 0, 0, well 0, 0 is down here, definitely not in that combined shaded region, so that we know that one's not 1 either. 12, 20, well that's all the way up here. It doesn't work, not a solution. 12, 16 is right here. That is in the shaded region, so we're good to go. 16 up here above, so it doesn't work. So our only 4 are the ones that I circled. Again, you could have done the same thing that we did over here. Plug in 2, plug in 10. If it works, then check the next one. If it doesn't, mark it off. Okay? So those are what you're doing on number 1. Let's look at number 2. Number 2, Jamison is vacationing in the mountains and wants to rent a bicycle. He found 2 rental companies. Bob's Bikes charges a non-refundable deposit of $10 and then $7.50 per hour of rental. Cammy's Rentals charges a bike fee of $15 and then just $5 per hour of rental. For each company, write an equation showing the total rental cost C as a function of the number hours H that the bike was rented. So my 2 equations. So I'm going to have Bob's Bikes and I'm going to have Cammy's Rentals as my 2 equations. I know that the total cost C is what I'm going to be equal to. I put down on Bob's Bikes a deposit of $10. So $10 isn't changing no matter what I do, but that $7.50 per hour, and remember we represented hours as H, so we're talking about plus 7.5 H. Same thing here, Cammy's Rentals. We're still using that total cost C of what we're going to pay. So C equals a bike fee of $15. So it doesn't say that it's changing. That's just the initial amount, $15, plus $5 per hour. Guys, that per means you're going to multiply it by something. That's what gives it away. Letter B says at how many hours is the fee at both companies the same? Well, that's telling me that these 2 equations are going to equal the same thing, because we're talking about that the fee, that total cost, is equaling each other. So I know that I have 10 plus 7.5 or 7.50 H equals 15 plus 5 H. Here's a couple suggestions I have if you encounter this on your paper. One is just plug in your answer choices and see which one works. The other is check and see if you can do it in your graphing calculator first. So we're going to go to y equals right here, and then we're going to plug in those equations. So instead of c, that's the y, and then the h is going to become your x. So I'm going to plug in 10 plus 7.5 x in y1, and then I'm going to plug in 15 plus 5x in the other. Then I'm going to go to my table. I'm looking for where my y1s and my y2 is the same. Well, if you notice in my calculator, right here at 2, I have 25 and 25. They're the same. So that's telling me that at 2 hours, okay, both companies cost $25. That's where they're the same. Alright, letter C, if Jamison wants to rent the bike for about 5 hours, which company will give the better deal? Well, to give the better deal, what does that mean I'm looking for? Let's just plug it in and see what we're looking for first. So I'm going to plug in 5 hours for both equations. So for the first one, I have C equals 10 plus 7.5 times 5. And then the second one is C equals 15 plus 5 times 5. Plug that into your main screen of your calculator. So you're going to do 10 plus 7.5 times 5, and you get 47.5. And then same again, 15 plus 5 times 5, and you get 40. So again, going back to what does it mean to be the better deal? Well, the better deal, if you're going to go to some store and shop, means you don't want to pay as much. So the company that gives the better deal is the one that's cheaper, which is the $40 one, which goes to Cammie's Rentals. So Cammie's Rentals would be my answer. If you need to, go on a separate sheet of paper, work these out, and you can attach it. All right, let's look at number 3. Number 3, at the arcade, Sam won 2 blue tickets, 1 yellow ticket, and 3 red tickets for 1,500 total points. Jamie won 1 blue ticket, 2 yellow tickets, and 2 red tickets for 1,225 total points. And Yvonne won 2 blue tickets, 3 yellow tickets, and 1 red ticket for 1,200 total points. Write a system, so that's talking about equations, to represent this situation. And notice it tells me down here what each of my variables mean. So let's go back and just look at very first sentence. It says Sammy won 2 blue tickets. So I know I have 2 and then B, because that represents my blue tickets. 1 yellow ticket. So I'm going to add these because I see that this word right here says total. So 1 yellow ticket, so I'm talking about plus Y. And then 3 red tickets, so plus 3R, because that's what the red tickets represent. For total, so total means equals 1,500 points, or 1,500, however you would like to look at that. Alright, so then looking at that next sentence, if I look at the next one, I'm going to go through the same process. So I have 1 blue ticket, so again B, or you can put 1B, either one, it doesn't matter, just know that that's a 1 and not an L there. 1B plus 2Y, because we've got yellow, plus 2 red equals 1,225. So there's my next one. And then finally my last one, Yvonne won 2 blue tickets. So I've got the number 2B plus, and then that 3Y plus R, or 1R, equals 1,200 or 1,200. So right here, this right here would be my system of equations. All you gotta do, guys, make sure you're reading through, break down each problem, use that word and, it means add, total means equal, things like that. Plug in, copy it, write as much as you need to on your test, on your packet to practice, all of those. Use those test-taking strategies. Number 4. So this one says for each system of equations below, find the values of x, y, and z in the solution to the systems. Well, it doesn't tell me how to solve, so yeah, you could go through that whole Gaussian elimination, take all those steps out, or we can just simply use our calculator. So let's go through and use our calculator. I've got this right here. Here we go with the steps. I'm going to first go to second x to the negative 1. That brings up my matrices. I want to go over to where it says edit and hit enter. I want to put in my dimensions, so I'm looking at how many rows by how many columns. So I've got 1, 2, 3, so I'm going to hit 3, enter, and then I have 4 columns, so 4, enter. And if you notice on your screen, you should be able to pull up to where you can see 3, and then you should have 4 at the top, and notice mine goes over to have that 4th one. Then I'm just hitting all of those numbers in. So I'm going to hit 1, enter, 2, enter, 3, enter, 9, enter, 0, enter, 1, enter, 0, enter, negative 1, enter, 0, enter, 0, enter, 1, enter, 3, enter, and then before I do anything else, I want to double check that what I see on my screen is what I see on my paper. Because your calculator is going to give you an answer no matter what, it just might not be the right one. So after I double check, I'm going to hit second, quit, because I want to go back to that main screen. If you don't do that, it's not going to work properly. Okay, so then I'm going to hit second, matrix again, but this time I'm going to go over to math, and I'm going to go down to where I see the words RREF, hit enter, and then go back to second matrix, hit enter, close your parentheses, enter. That right there is going to give you your augmented or your matrix with your answers. Remember, this represents your x, y, and z, just like in the order of how it goes. So your x is going to be 2, y will be -1, and z will be 3 as your answer for number 4. Go ahead and pause this video and practice number 5 on your own before you watch it again. So number 5, again, same steps, you're going to plug them in. Let's go back just so you can kind of see some things. So when you go back to your matrix, so second matrix, and you hit edit, notice that's still there. Those numbers are still there, which is fine because this dimension is still the same. You might have to change it occasionally, but if you don't want it there, you can second plus 7, 1, 2. You could go to matrix B. You have multiple options. So I'm going to hit in those numbers. So I'm going to pull my calculator down some. So again, 3 by 4, so 3 enter, 4 enter, and then I'm going to hit in each of those numbers. So -2, enter, 1, enter, 3, enter, 20, enter, -3, enter, 2, enter, 1, enter, 21, enter, 3, enter, -2, enter, 3, enter, -9, enter. So again, check what you're seeing in your screen is what you see on your paper. Then I'm going to hit second, quit. Make sure nothing's there because that'll mess it up. So you want to clear a little screen right there. Second matrix, over to math. Then you're going to arrow down to where you see R, R, E, F. You want the double R, not the single. Double R. Hit enter. Then you're going to hit second matrix. Again, hit enter. You don't want to go to edit. You want to hit it on the actual name. Close your parentheses and hit enter. So this gives you your answer. It goes X, Y, and then Z. So you've got -4, 3, and 3. So that is number 5. So now we're going to flip the page. We're going to go to number 6. Here is number 6. It says, Michael is shopping for clothes. He needs to buy an equal number of shirts and ties. He also needs to buy, 4 times as many shirts as pants. Shirts cost $35, ties cost $25, and pants cost $40. Michael spends $565. Using the system below, determine how many shirts, ties, and pants he purchased. So you have a couple of options on this if you want to solve it. Notice, we've got all of these words, but in the final question, all we're doing is identifying S, T, and P, which are shirts, ties, and pants. You can either solve this by hand, or we could create a matrix and do the same thing we did with 4 and 5. I would suggest creating a matrix, but in order to do that, you want to have to where this equation is what these two look like. So I need to subtract T, and notice I go S, T, and then P. So I'm going to have S minus T, and that's going to equal 0. This one I'm going to subtract 4P. So I have S minus 4P, 4P, not P4, 4P equals 0. So now it looks similar to this equation. So I'm always going to go with my S first. So my S is 1, my T is -1, and there is no P, so I'm going to put 0, and then 0. Then 1, 0, because I don't have a T, -4, 0, and then sometimes you have to create it bigger than what's there. So finally 35, 25, 40, and 560. Be careful that you don't get those numbers mixed up. Remember, we don't put commas in our matrix. But this is your matrix on your paper, so as long as you know what you're doing, that's fine. But remember, on your paper, on a test, you're not going to see the matrix set up with that. So what I want to do now is go back in, go to second matrix. I want to hit in that matrix. I'm going to go over to edit. Again, it's a 3 by 4. I'm going to pull my calculator off the screen so we can see the matrix. I'm going to hit 3, enter, 4, enter, and then I'm going to enter in each of these numbers. So 1, enter, -1, enter, 0, enter, 0, enter, 1, enter, 0, enter, -4, enter, 0, enter, 35, enter, 25, enter, 40, enter, 560, enter. And then double check what you see on your screen is what you see on your paper, because, again, your calculator is going to solve whatever is there. So then I'm going to go to second, quit. You want to go back to your main screen. You want to go here where there's nothing there. We're going to go to second matrix. That's second x to the -1. Over to math. Down to RREF. Enter. Second matrix. Enter. Close. Enter. And I get that matrix. So notice my S was first. So your first number at top is 8. That means I have 8 shirts. Then your second letter was T. So my second number is 8. So I have 8 and then ties, because that was what T represents. And then finally P, and so you have 2 pants. So that would be giving you how many of each they have. Alright, number 7. Number 7 says movies in the United States make billions of dollars. And we have the years since 1995 across our table, and then the revenue or dollars and billions of what we're making right here. It says find the linear regression equation that fits the data shown above. So this is where you use that whole stat edit, and this is going back to things you learned in Algebra 1, at the very beginning of the year in here actually. So stat edit, and I'm going to, in L1, hit the years since. So I'm going to hit 0, enter 1, enter 2, enter 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Make sure you press enter after all of those numbers. Then I go over to L2, so now I'm in L2, and I'm going to hit in the revenue. So 5.29, 6.51, 7.30, 8.13, 9.35, 8.93, 9.63, 10.65, 10.20, and 9.88. And guys, this is where it's really important that what you put in your calculator is what you see, because again, it's going to give you an answer no matter what. You have to make sure it matches what you see on your paper. So please double, triple, quadruple check right there. So to find the linear regression, this is where I'm going to go back to stat, and then this time I'm going to go over to calc, and I'm looking for the linear regression. So the linear regression is the one that says lin. Think about line, because linear is a line. I'm going to go down to 4 and hit enter, and then enter. So once I get that, I'm going to plug in that to my equation. So I have y equals 0.53. Remember, you're rounding to the nearest hundredths. X plus 6.19. Okay, notice on your calculator it tells you what A and what B equals. Now my mistake is I didn't turn on that diagnostic, which you might want to know how to do in case it asks for that R value. So to do that, you can hit second 0, and you're going to arrow down to where you see diagnostic on. I'm going to take a little shortcut here. So you're going to arrow down to diagnostic on, enter, enter, and it should say diagnostic on done. Then the cool thing is I'm going to go back up to linear regression, hit enter, and I have that R squared in the R if you want that. Alright, this says use your regression equation to predict the movie revenue in the year 2010. Now this is a tricky one because if you notice my years start at 1995. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2010 minus 1995. So 2010 minus 1995, and you get 15. So that is actually what you're going to plug in for your x. So you're going to do 0.53 times 15 plus 6.19. So 0.53 times 15 plus 6.19, and you get $14.14 in billions. So you're thinking that's a lot of money there for what's happening. All right, number 8. Number 8, we have a couple different questions on here. Again, your graph might look a little weird as to what's going on. So look at mine if you want to. It's the same, it's just smaller, and your g of x is kind of hidden behind the graph. So letter A, so this function g of x is represented right here with, this is an absolute value equation, and then this right here, that is the line y equals 2. I want to know what is the value of g of 4. So this 4 is representing the x, because look here, you've got g of x. So I'm going to go where x is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going down where I actually see my line, so this right here, so this means that this equals negative 2. Alright, so then, what is the solution set of g of x equals 2? Well, that's the line of g of x equals 2 drawn right here. My solution set is where the 2 intersect, so here and here. So this is at 2, and then 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 2 and 7, or you could tell me x equals 2, x equals 7. Either one I will take. Then, what is the solution set of g of x is greater than or equal to 2? So that's where now I've got the filled in circles, and the greater than tells me I'm shading my line above. Well, this is going in two opposite directions. So if we're going in two opposite directions, that means I have x such that x is, well, my numbers are getting less than this, so I'm less than or equal to positive 2. Or my numbers are getting bigger, so we're talking about x is greater than or equal to 7. And remember that or equal to comes from what is this, if that line's there or not. What is the domain of g of x? Well, domain of absolute value function is always all real numbers. So you can write it two ways. You can either say negative infinity to positive infinity, or you can say x such that x is contained in all real numbers. And then, what is the range? Well, this is really important. Make sure you know it. But the range of g of x means that it's how low to how high. Remember, you read range from bottom to top. So my lowest point is right here. So that is -3 up to, it keeps going, so infinity. So that's the interval notation. Or you can say y such that y is greater than or equal to -3, because I'm actually touching -3. So there is number 8. Number 9. Number 9, again, I have an absolute value function. It's just in a table, and it's asking me these three questions. So it says, what is the value of h of 2? Well, h of 2, again, it's in my parentheses. This is x. I'm going where x is 2. What is y? Well, it is 5. So 5 is my answer. Now, on this one, letter B says, what is the solution set of h of x equals 3? That is 3 is outside. That is my y value. So I'm going where y is 3. So here was where I see y is 3. So I have two answers, which are -2, 1. Remember, you're using the braces, those squiggle brackets, to represent the solution set. And then this one says, what is the solution set of h of x is greater than or equal to 3? Well, that's where I'm looking. Okay, is 5 greater than or equal to 3? Yes. Is 3 greater than or equal to 3? Yes. 1, no. 3, yes. 5, yes. 7, yes. So since I'm on the outside, I'm going two opposite directions. So it's like going this way and this way. Then we're talking about the same type of what we wrote up here. So we're talking that x is such that x is less than or equal to -2, which if you notice, here my numbers are getting smaller than -2. Or x is greater than or equal to 1, which again, my numbers are getting bigger than 1. Okay, it's going in those two opposite directions. So if you had this on a number line, this would be -2, this would be 1. You'd have those filled in circles there because we're touching those numbers. All right, flip it over. Number 10. Number 10, we got two problems at the top. So I want to solve each of these and record them as the equation or on the number line. So we're going to record that answer here, then we're going to represent it on a number line. So the first thing in solving these is I want to isolate. So I'm going to add 2. So I have 3 absolute value of 4x minus 5 equals 19 plus 2, which is 21. I'm actually going to come over on a separate sheet of paper just so y'all can see the workout completely here. So after this, then I have that 3 absolute value, 4x minus 5. I would highly suggest that you bold those bars so that you can clearly see them. Divide by 3 on both sides. So absolute value, 4x minus 5 equals 7. This is where now you're going to split into a positive and negative. So you're going to have a positive 4x minus 5 equals 7 and a negative 4x minus 5 equals 7. There's a couple ways you can solve from here. You can choose your method. What my class did preferably is they distributed each of these signs. So you had 4x minus 5 equals 7, add 5. 4x equals 12, divide by 4, x equals 3. Now remember, on a multiple choice, you could just plug in your answers and check and work backwards, and that's what I would highly suggest you do. But again, if you want to solve it, if you want to show your work, that is okay too. Just please make sure you're checking your work too, which is where you would plug it back in up here, and I'll show you that in a minute. This one, negative 4x plus 5 equals 7. Again, distribute that negative to both signs. So I have negative 4x equals 7 minus 5, which is 2. Divide by negative 4. So x equals negative 1/2. Again, fractions, math, enter on your calculator will give you those fractions. Keep them. That's what you're going to see. So I want to check and make sure that what I have is correct. I'm going to go back to that original problem. So 3, absolute value, 4, I'm going to check the 3. So 3 minus 5 minus 2 equals 19. I want to make sure that this is right. So 3, absolute value of 4 times 3 is 12, minus 5 is 7, minus 2 equals 19. Plug this in your calculator if you want to, but you should know absolute value is 7. All absolute value means is the distance from 0, which is always positive. So you've got 3 times 7 minus 2 equals 19. Well, 3 times 7 is 21. 21 minus 2 is 19. So 19 equals 19. You're good to go. You also want to check 3, absolute value 4 times 1/2 minus 5 minus 2. Check that as well. So you're going to have 4 negative 1/2. There we go. Negative 1/2. So 4 times negative 1/2. Plug that in your calculator. Do all of that. You're checking the same way for that one. And so you're going to find out that this does work as well when you check for yourself. So my two solutions are 3 and 1/2. So right here in my solution bank, I'm going to write 3, comma, negative 1/2, or negative 1/2, comma, 3 with those solution brackets. And then to represent on a number line, so say that this is 0. Well, negative 1/2, if this is 1, would be here. So I've got negative 1/2. You can represent it. And then 1, 2, 3 is my other solution there. So that's how you would do that on the number line. All right, let's look at this one right here, the absolute value of x plus 2 less than or equal to 5. Now the cool thing, guys, when you're doing this is you can do it a couple ways. You could check in your table, and that's the way we're going to show it right now. So I'm going to go into my calculator. I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to type in that absolute value. So I'm going to type in the absolute value. To get absolute value, the easiest place to find it is second 0, and it's your very first one, second 0. So there's x, arrow out, and I have plus 2. I'm going to go to my table, and I'm looking for 5. Well, there's 5 right there. And I'm going to go see if I can find it again. There it is right there. So I'm looking where it is 5. Let's just kind of create a mini table to the side here. So I have x, and I have y, and I want you to use a point above. So I'm going to use negative 4, 6, negative 3, 5. I'm going to use a point in the middle. Let's just use 0, 2, and then 3, 5, and 4, 6. So again, point above, point below, point in the middle. And remember, I'm trying to make sure I'm using this inequality symbol. So I'm going to use that 5, and I'm going to compare. Is 6 less than or equal to 5? No, it's not. Is 5 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is, and that's also my solution number that I'm looking at. Is 2 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is. 5, yes, and again, I'm circling that one. And then 6, no, it's not. So I'm actually between. So I'm looking at, here is, I'm going to represent this as 0. So then 1, 2, 3 is negative 3. I'm putting a filled in circle because it's or equal to. And then I'm going to fill in a circle at positive 3. So 1, 2, 3 right here. And then I'm going to shade for my number line between those two numbers. So negative 3 and 3. Because my solution falls between those. If it were to fall on the outside, if I had checked on the outside, then I would go to the outside and draw those arrows. So that's how you're doing that. You can also write this as x such that negative 3 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 3. Or you can even go with that interval notation, which is negative 3 to 3. Either one is okay on your how you write them, but please make sure you know how to do the number line. I'm going to leave number 11 for your practice. You're doing the same thing to number 11 that you did for the other ones. You could even use your calculator to solve those as well. Go look at your table. If you want to check them, you can come check them with me, and I will have the solution for you to check those, or email me if you would like. Let's look at number 12. Number 12 says identify the following for the graph. We want to see which direction does this parabola open, and then what is the equation for the axis of symmetry. So let's just plug that equation in. So in my calculator, I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to plug in x squared plus 10x plus 23. And I'm going to go to my table. Remember, for the table, when you're looking for the axis of symmetry, that goes along with your vertex. So what I'm looking for is in my table, where do I stop repeating? Well, right here at 5, negative 2. So I know that that's my vertex. I know my vertex is 5, negative 2. And then I want to go look at my graph. Well, notice here's my parabola. It's opening upward. So right here on letter A, it opens up or upward. And then the equation for the axis of symmetry, well, because it is up and down parabola, not laying on its side, that tells me that my axis of symmetry cuts it in the center. So we're talking about a line that goes across my x-axis. So I have x equals 2, 5, because I'm using the x of my vertex. Number 13. I have a couple different types of equations that you could see. All of these, guys, when you're faced with anything like this, when it's asking you for points, when it's asking you for what it looks like, what are the factors, things like that, just plug it in your y equals and look at your graph, look at your tables to find that. So letter A, B, and C, I'm going to let you plug those in and look at them and fill them in on your own. And then I'm going to let you pause it and fill those in, and then you can check back with your answers. But try it on your own, see what you can do. Okay? So I'm going to give you a minute to pause it and try it, and if you're going to notice, all of a sudden my answers are going to appear. So here are the answers. Go ahead and take a look and check. Remember, zeros are just meaning where it crosses your x-axis. So if you're looking at your table, you're looking at where does my y equal 0. So you're looking for where y is 0. X-intercept means that x is 0. Or sorry, y-intercept. Y-intercept means that x is 0. So it's really like that point in the table if you were to clear your calculator, very first thing you see. Vertex, again, we talked about it on the last one. Go in and look at your table where it repeats. Max means it's the highest. Min means it's the lowest. So check that graph, see what it looks like. Domain, if you look on any poster, you're going to see it's always all real numbers, negative infinity, positive infinity, or this way. Range, because it's opening upward, means that my numbers are all getting bigger than 6, which was that y of my vertex. So that's the way to read those. If you have any questions on those, feel free to come ask before school or after school if you watch this on Wednesday. All right, number 14. Number 14 is kind of a new concept in the sense of that we're really going to be addressing it with you next week, but you can still do it. So this one says find the regression. Well, we've already done it for linear, but this one wants quadratic. So here's the cool thing. Go use it. Same thing as the linear one. So you're going to go to Stat, Edit. Remember, do not hit delete. So either second plus 712 or go to the top of your list, hit clear, and then enter. But do not hit delete. You will be in big trouble. All right, so in my L1, I'm going to hit my X's. So 10, enter, 8, and then I'm going to go down the list until I've hit in all of those numbers. And then same thing for f of x. For L2 is going to be my f of x. So 9.14. And I go down until I've hit in all of those numbers. And then I'm going to double and triple check that I've hit in the correct numbers, because with all of these decimals, it's real easy not to do that. So again, double, triple check that what you hit is the correct one. Check your screen, all of that good stuff, just to make sure that you're not messing up. So once you do that, I want you to go into Stat like normal, go over to Calc, but because we're finding the quadratic regression and take a wild guess, it's going to be your number 5 is that quadratic regression. So number 5 is what you're going to hit, and it pops up with what you want. And you've got an extra little letter C, but you're still rounding the same. Nearest hundredths, you're still using the same placement, A, B, and then C, except this time you have an x squared. Now the cool thing is, again, test your multiple choice. Make sure it's got an x squared first, and if it doesn't, mark those off if it's asking for a quadratic. So my equation is going to be y equals negative 0.13, my bad, 0.13 x squared, because that 6 rounds my 2 to a 3, plus 2.79x minus, or plus negative is okay, minus 6.01 And that doesn't have anything because that's your c value, it's your constant. Okay, so there's my quadratic regression. Yeah, it's new. Yeah, we haven't really taught it to you yet, but it's similar to linear, and you're going to see it again next week. So, hey, we're just getting a head start. All right, just a few more left. Number 15. It says determine the following information for the graph that's shown. And it says, what is the value of f of 2? Well, again, 2 is that number that's in the parentheses, so it's my x. I'm going where x is 2. And my answer is 1. So this is equal to 1. Approximate the zeros of this function. Well, the zeros means where am I crossing that x-axis? And notice I can't really see it. It says approximate, so we know that we're about 2 and about 6 is about where we are. So you could have said like 2.1. You could have said, 5.9. Anything like that would have worked. All right, what is the vertex of the parabola? The vertex, again, is where it's coming to that point. So we have 4 and then -3. Axis symmetry goes through your vertex. So we're talking about x equals 4. They're even nice, and they gave you x equals. So you just had to find that number that it goes through, which is that 4. Write the equation of this parabola in vertex form. Okay, so that right there, guys, and for the sake of you not getting scared, if you see this, I want you to type in your answer choice into y1 and this right here into y2. And I want you to go until y1 equals y2 in your table. All right? If you want to know, again, how to truly go through that, go back to your notes, come to me, and we'll work through that together. F, what is the solution set of f of x equals 1? Well, now I'm going to draw a line at 1. I'm looking where it crosses. Well, that's 2 and 6. So that truly is hitting at 2, 6. All right. What is the domain and range? Well, we've kind of already talked about this. Range is going to be that up and down. Domain is that left to right. So domain is going to be that negative infinity to positive infinity. Range, and just so that you can practice seeing it, we're talking about y such that y, and all my numbers are getting bigger, so greater than or equal to -3. All right, and then finally 16, it says solve by factoring. Again, guys, when you're looking at these, go ahead and remember that whole y1 with your answer choices, y2 with this, or y2 with one, or y1 with that, and y2 whatever, and you're looking where y1 equals y2. That's your best option. However, if you want to see this solved by factoring, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow you the time to practice, and then you can come back and check your answers. So pause the video, and then you can come back. Do that right now, but just a simple, remember GCF before you get started, 2 and then x squared plus 10x plus 25 is your best option. Okay, so pause this video, take a second, practice on your own, and then you can come back. I'm not going to show the full steps of the factoring with the whole grouping, or if you want to choose to do box, you can, but so pause it, try it on your own, come back and check it. Alright, so once you do your by grouping, you're going to have 2, and then you're going to have the factors x plus 5 and x plus 5. But remember, we're solving, so I'm setting each of those equal to 0. So I have 2 equals 0, x plus 5 equals 0, and x plus 5 equals 0. So this doesn't work. This tells me x equals -5. This tells me x equals -5 if I subtract 5 on both sides. So my answer would be -5. This one right here, you might recognize as difference of squares, but it's going to be your factors of x minus 6 and x plus 6 equals 0. So you have x minus 6 equals 0, x plus 6 equals 0. So your answers would be -6 from here, and then from right here, the x plus 6, and then positive 6 from here would be your two answers, because you would add 6 minus 6, so x equals 6, x equals -6. If you have problem 17 or G and F still on yours, go ahead and delete those. I think I took them off before I submitted it, but just in case, you don't need to do those because we have not covered them yet. So just keeping in mind right here that this is what you're doing for the factoring, typing in that y1 and y2. If you don't want to spend the time on this, if you want to and you want to try your work, that's great. Just make sure you're checking your answers. that's the end of the review. Feel free to re-watch it. I'm going to go down just so you can see the end of this so you can see what happened. But feel free to re-watch it, do what you need to help study for the TEKS test using this review. Any numbers that when we were going through that were circled, those are ones you really want to focus on and make sure that you know how to do.